Hi, my name is Diana Wilcox, and we are going to talk about social justice. So, according to ABOT, social justice includes a variety of collective goals, such as a full and equal participation of individuals in all social institutions, their equitable distribution of material and non-material goods, and recognition and support for the needs and rights of individuals. In other words, the values of social justice are not only fair and equitable access to resources, but also the elimination of systemic barriers. Another definition that I want to bring to our attention is implicit bias. According to Marino et al., implicit bias is a subtle form of discriminatory action which is outside of one individual's conscious awareness. Patients that experience implicit bias can experience misdiagnosis, a diminished confidence in the profession, which can lead to a decrease in treatment adherence or even discontinuation of treatment seeking. So let's look for implicit bias. I decided to take the physically able test as I wanted to see how I feel about people that are different than me, respectively individuals with a disability. The test first investigates how one feels about physically disabled and physically able individuals and the respondents' preferences towards either physically disabled or able individuals. Additionally, it examines the respondent emotional response to health, financial burden, ability to perform activities of daily living, and to enjoy community activities. Finally, the test challenges the individual to categorize items into groups using different values for the key E and I. The categories are adjectives that depict good concepts, adjectives that describe bad concepts, pictograms for physically disabled and physically able. After taking the test, I discovered that I have a moderate automatic preference towards physically able people over physically disabled people. That was a surprise to me. So I asked myself, why do I have a moderate preference towards able-bodied individuals? I consider myself pretty open-minded and non-judgmental. It is not that I deride or do not like people with disabilities, but somehow I miss to even be in the neutral zone. After some reflection, I discovered that, in fact, it is uncomfortable for me to think about this subject, as it is a painful subject due to counter-transference. My husband's brother, Keith, who died a few years ago, had physical disabilities. For a long time, until iPads were invented, my in-laws were not able to communicate with Keith, and they were led to believe that Keith had the emotional and mental capabilities of a 2-year-old. When Keith was in his late 20s, one of his occupational therapists had the idea to see if he can communicate with an iPad. It turns out that he was able to spell words, and his first words were, "I'm not stupid," and "I love you, mother." Nobody taught him how to spell or read. The family believes that he learned by himself by watching Sesame Street. I think that seeing individuals with disabilities is too painful for me. All the pictures that you see about people with disabilities present happy people, but I know that the reality can be different. I cannot even imagine how challenging it is to be stuck in a body that doesn't serve you and not being able to communicate. Now I wonder if Keith was truly happy or he was not aware that he was not happy. I doubt that any provider took the time to educate him about what feelings are and what happiness is. So let's look into statistics. 1 in 4 adults, which means 61 million adults in the US, have a disability. For 2018, CRE et al. Estimated that 32.9% of adults with disabilities experience mental distress. But where are they? I have been working in the past year in 3 mental health settings, and I did not see any individuals with disabilities accessing mental health services. According to National Alliance on Mental Illness, people with disabilities can feel less than, face systemic stigma, and lack integrated care. In this context, having the understanding that I can feel uncomfortable around people with disabilities will make me more aware when interacting with this population. For example, if I will open my own practice, in order to eliminate physical barriers to access healthcare, I need to find accessibility solutions so I can provide services tailored for individuals with disabilities. For instance, according to Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund, offering wheelchair access, ASL and interpreting services, and computer terminals for individuals with cognitive impairments is a good start in order to increase access to care for individuals with disabilities. Now, let's look to my second test. For my second test, I decided to take the Arab Muslims and other people test, as I wanted to see how I feel about individuals that do not have the same religion as I do. The test starts by gathering some demographic data, then jumps directly into presenting the groups that you need to categorize using again E and I computer keys. Using 7 parts, the test measures the power of association between the presented concepts, such as good adjectives and bad adjectives, and Arab names or European and Asian names. Based on the response time, the test evaluates the unconscious inclination towards other people, respectively European and Asian names, or Arab Muslims or Arab names. To my surprise, the test showed that I have a moderate automatic preference for other people over Arab Muslims. The result came almost as a shock to me. Even if I was raised Eastern Orthodox, I have Turkish heritage. I have traveled in Muslim and Arabic countries. I read Arabic authors. I eat and cook Arabic food as part of my family tradition. But what can I say? The Harvard study has spoken. Then I reflected a little bit. My personal and professional discomfort regarding the Muslims and Arabs stems from the fact that I am aware that Arab and Muslim cultures have an ample diversity of ethnic, linguistic, and religious communities. I know that I am unable to learn and understand all the nuances of their rich traditions and convoluted history. For example, when I was working with a Pakistani psychiatrist, I presumed that he is Hindu. He told me, "Smile, I'm not Hindu," and left. He was evidently upset, but he didn't say anything. I went and researched about the Pakistani religion, and I learned that the main religion in Pakistan is Islam. Of course, I went and apologized for my mistake, but I learned my lesson. Never assume, always assess. In conclusion, my professional and personal discomfort comes from the fact that I feel uncomfortable when I do not have a lot of background information about someone's culture. The lesson here is that even if I feel that I know something, always assess. In 2018, a 2018 study by Padella and Zaidini showed that Muslims face health inequalities due to lack of cultural accommodation of religious values and practices in the clinical realm. For example, in a different article, Padella et al. Point out that cultural accommodations for Muslims include gender concordant care, halal foods, and offering a neutral space for prayer, as prayer is a central part of the healing process in Muslim cultures. Having the understanding that I have now regarding the healthcare inequalities that Arabs and Muslims can face, I will advocate for my patients so they can have cultural accommodations. And here is a quote from Clone Wars about truth. Because the truth about yourself is the hardest to accept as it represents your shadow. The first challenge was to find tests that invite to introspection. That is the reason that I chose tests that confronted my worldview, people that are physically disabled and people that have a different religion. The second challenge was to accept that I might have a bias and look into the why and how I have that bias. I understood that sometimes the bias is not necessarily because one is a bigot. In my case, I don't feel comfortable around disabled people as it can resurface painful memories. Additionally, I don't feel comfortable around Arabs or Muslims as I feel that I don't know enough about their culture in order to adeptly offer care for this population. In conclusion, in my future practice, I will make sure to integrate the gained understanding and be aware of my unconscious reactions and beliefs. By exploring our implicit and explicit biases, facing our shadow, we can serve all our patients and improve access to healthcare by meeting our patients where they are. So here are my references. Thank you for this opportunity to introspection, and I wish you all a wonderful day.